All right, almost ready to get started. Let me just open a Visual Studio and then we should be ready to go. All right, here we go. As I said last week, I'm in a different spot right now. We're in a temporary house because our normal house is getting some renovations done. So we've been moved, which also means that I now have a temporary streaming spot, and it's all very temporary. Whenever I move the mouse or my keyboard, then everything moves. So I don't know if you can see the camera shake or something. I really hope not. I don't want you all to get seasick. But yeah, it might happen. Tell me if it gets too bad. Maybe I can, I don't know, strap stuff down or something. Or, no idea. Anyway, we were going to work a little bit on the spatial priorities mod. I'd like to get at least a basic working version out. I also want to investigate which other mods might be using the same kind of the same class. So that would be the what was it called? Job giver work. So that's the class in the think tree. So the think tree is basically the pawn AI, and this particular class deals with pawns looking for work. So after they are done resting, I don't know, getting their whatchamacallit, their yeah, playing and stuff. There's a name for that. Recreation? Is that what they call it in the game? I don't remember. But anyway, once they got all of those like non-job activities out of the way, then they might hopefully sometimes actually start doing some work, and then this job giver decides which work they actually do. So if you want to change priorities in any way, that's where you need to be. If you want to change which pawns are able to work or allowed to work, then that's where you need to be. So there's a couple of mods that I've already looked at that are actually at least touching it. I don't know to what extent they're changing things. We have to have a look at that. The two main ones are hospitality. I haven't looked at it yet, but presumably to make it so that guests can do some light work, and prison labor, so that you can work your prisoners to death and you can give them priorities. So those are both quite popular, so we'll need to make sure that there's a viable path to making these mods work together. Doesn't have to be completed now, but there should be, yeah, we shouldn't think too much time in something that's never going to be compatible with those two mods, because that would just be a waste of energy, to be honest. I also noticed that when we set priorities now, these don't actually save across save games. So we need to fix that. We need to make sure that they get saved. And I want to create a little designator on the bottom right of the screen. So where all of the dev menu things are, or what you call it, those little options, the speed timers, etc. I want to just have a little quickly accessible widget or something there that makes it easy to quickly select a priority and quickly toggle something to be high priority. And we also need to add an option for that, because some people might feel that as to be too cluttery and would actually not like it to be there. Different sorts always. Yeah, temporary environment. So I also only have one screen. So normally I would have OBS running on the other screen and you wouldn't get to see this cool dross effect. I can wave it myself, always makes me happy. It's like a 3-second delay in there. It's super cool. Anyway, where was I going? Yeah. So let's pick something to get started with. Let's look at loading and saving, because we need to do that anyway. So to load and save something, we've got the priority grid here. So this is a map component. and this is what we actually use to store the grid in. So during the game, it gets added to the particular map, which means that each map gets its own priority grid. Right, so a grid has a spatial priority enum, and that's an array of spatial priorities. So the enum is just simply very low, low, normal, important, critical. The same priorities we saw in the little thingy. It's got some colors on it as a static, and it's got a static constructor to make sure that those colors get loaded properly and happen in the main thread. It's a Unity thing. I'm sure we'll explain that sometime. It's got a little accessor to make sure that you can access it with a cell, and then that routes to the specific index in this array. It's the same way that vanilla handles these kinds of grids, so there's nothing special about that. Yeah, another getter setter to get and set things by index, same thing. And if you wanted to, you could do it with X and Z coordinates specifically. I don't think I ever used that. Yeah, it's got 0 references, so. But it's there. It's presumably because I just copied one of the normal the in-game grids, and they have the same accessors. Same with cells count. All right. Now this is where things get interesting because I have no idea what this is. It's mark for draw. Oh, that's annoying. Sorry about that. Just need to make sure that I got my chat up. Right. So this is when we've got the designator selected, or any designator selected for spatial priority. Then on each update, so every tick basically, the priority grid gets marked for draw. So that basically means that we're only drawing it when we've got the designator selected. That's fair enough. When we do that, we want to draw each layer, and I'm assuming that, what are the layers? Like, I'm assuming that the layers are, yeah, their specific priority. Oh gosh. Where do these get created? Right. Okay. Okay, so presumably in this set dirty method, yeah, we mark them dirty and then we'll recalculate the layers. And we set the drawer to be, and this is just a cell bool drawer. Okay, so the cell bool drawer is actually a vanilla class. Right, so yeah, so what I've done is I've just bunched 5 cell bool drawers. So that's just like areas are also bools, like you're either, each cell is either part of that area or it isn't. And I've just repurposed them to do the priority drawing, which should be fine. Yeah, because I remember struggling with getting like the see-through areas to draw in any kind of color that I wanted to, like a specific color. I think that's also why the color bits are here. So what we have now is also kind of a compromise, because it wasn't actually, yeah, I wasn't terribly happy with it, but it should work. All right, so we need to, this priority grid is a map component. Map components are exposable by default. So they have the they inherit the interface, or they implement the interface I exposable. And what that does is it includes one method, and that would be public void expose data, because this is already something that exists. We need to override it. By default, this will store things like, well, actually apparently absolutely nothing. Okay, I thought it would at least store the map, but I guess it gets instantiated with the map. So that would be returned from whatever component holds the map components. I think that would be the map itself. I'm not sure how it works technically, but when it does its exposing, when it creates these, it will give them the argument for which map it has. So the constructor arguments will be provided. So we don't need to specifically store those. What we do need to specifically store is anything that is unique to this component, to this thing. So that would basically be the grid, because the map size we can recompute, that's not an issue, but we need to store this grid. The layers we can just recreate and stuff as well, just mark them dirty, that's fine. Don't need to worry too much about that. All right, now the question is, how do you store that? Because the game stores everything in XML, and if we were to store this grid as one giant array, that would be humongous. That would create a line for every single element in that array. Let me quickly grab a save game to show you that. I should have a couple here. Sure, an autosave, fine. Oop, there's been an update. Yeah, so this is a list item with specific things in it, but basically every single cell in it would become a list item, I think. I don't think it has a different way to store arrays as opposed to lists. So this is a giant list of things like in the research manager. So these are all the researchers that are available. We do not want to do this for every single cell in the map. If we were to do that, we would get on a normal map 250 times 250 lines. I don't even know how many that is, but that's too much. I should really know how many that is. That's terrible. That'd be 50, something like 60 something. Something 260,000 something, I think. I don't know. Too much. We're not going to do that. It's ridiculous. The game itself also doesn't do that. It stores these kind of things. If I'm not mistaken, these are base 64 encoded versions of like an array or stuff like that. And also in, I think, the areas, there's an area manager. Yeah, here we go. Here as well. Yeah, goody. Windows wants to restart. Let's not do that. Can you turn yourself up or something? Or just go away. So this is an area. This is the entire array for one area that's been compressed into this little string. The build roof, even smaller. So what we need to figure out is how it does that, which should be fairly straightforward. Maybe. Hopefully. Did something weird there. Alright. I mean, these are... Since we're storing it as... Is that useful? I was thinking, since we're displaying it as 5 separate layers anyway, we could theoretically also store it as 5 separate layers. But then we'd have to deal with the complexity when we're assigning it and getting the data. Like, which layer do you get it from? How do you handle conflicts between the layers? I think that is not ideal. But let's see how difficult the exposed data stuff for this is. Right, just give me the area thing. I'm sure there's a reference to area here. There we go. So this is what is actually getting stored, the inner grid. If you look at area, we'll have an exposed data method somewhere. Exposed data, yeah, there we go. So all it does is store its own ID so that it can reference itself again. And it has a specific bool grid look mode apparently, or is that true? No, this is a deep scribing. So inner grid has its own, a bool grid has its own exposed data again. And that would be here. So this is data exposure utility bool array. Let's see if they have anything else. They have a byte array. All right, that's good enough for us. We can easily, I think so, unless I'm, yeah, a byte is just an 8-bit number, right? So we're only working with 1 through 5 in our thing. We should be able to work with that. But let's see if it has, maybe it even has a specific other mode that I would be even happier with. No, it should be byte array, I guess. All right. We'll have to do a little bit of work to cast and uncast it, or whatever you call it. But shouldn't be too bad. Evening, people. Sorry about that. I have only one screen, so I have to shift between chat and other windows at some point. Yeah, that's the idea, Lanwudo. Not entirely overrule. It would overrule it within work categories. So within work types, you could they would do jobs in higher priority areas first. But it would be fairly easy to change that logic, because I'm completely rewriting the logic anyway. So making different versions of it shouldn't be too hard. And then maybe we can make like a couple of preference toggles for that or something. Hi there, Transatlantic, and nice to see you here. So yeah, it's about creating areas that have different priorities. So we look at the. I should really set up like a quick map where I can show this quickly. But anyway, we've got a couple of areas here. This is critical, important, not important, and like not important at all. And if we quickly create some work in there, I just put some stuff down here. So I'm just dropping a bunch of chinchilla fur everywhere. And create a stockpile. Then they should start hauling it from the high priority areas first. Let's have a quick look if that actually works still. Hopefully it should. Am I hosting on an alternative stream host? I don't think so. Well, I'm on a different. We're in a different house. Yeah, they're renovating our house, so we got like a temporary house to live in. So I moved all of my setup over there, but it's kind of, I don't have as much safe space, and I'm on a desk which is very wiggly. So everything moves when I type and stuff. It's really annoying me. I hope it's not too annoying for you guys, but anyway. Let's wake them up and see them in action. And I'll open the thing so you can see where they're going. So yeah, they're doing it in the high priority area first. They're going to berserk soon because they're close to breakpoint. Then they go to the slightly less high priority area. Then finally they'll go to this area. Or then they will do everywhere else first. Then this area, and then finally the the last low priority one. So that's the idea. And this is just within one work giver. There's already a couple of mods that do something similar, but it also works across work givers. So if you look at the work tab, there we go, Berserk, yay. For example, growing is actually multiple jobs. So it's planting, harvesting, foraging, etc. So all of those jobs would be considered together, basically. So if you have a high priority zone, they'll do all planting and all growing and all harvesting in that area first. And then they'll move to the next priority area for growing. But if you have construction, like that is still a different job type, which is on a different priority level, and then that would go first. And that's how I currently set it up. There is, like I said, I'm overriding this logic, so it's entirely possible to tweak that and to make some changes, and I can see different scenarios being very useful. So I just want to get the basic thing working, and then we can look at what people want to do with it and how we can make that actually work as wanted. Yeah, it's actually also, there's like a pre-release on GitHub, which is working, which is what I'm looking at the moment. It just doesn't save it, and it doesn't play well with other mods, but you can totally use it right now and see if it's, yeah, if you like it, if you want to make some changes or something. So yeah. Anyway, we were in the middle of creating an exposed data method for this. As far as I can see, all we need to do is we just need to save our priority grid. So we need to cast that to a byte array, which shouldn't be too difficult. But we probably need to create a small temporary variable for that. But let's find out what happens. So we're going scribing. Actually, no, it was expose data expose utility byte array. Yeah, we need an array of bytes to reference, so we need to create that first. Right, private byte array, and this will just be our priority grid scribe helper, because we'll never use this variable outside of scribing. Then we'll need to create this. So it works with bill giver and modded storage if they use the same storage type as vanilla store areas, but will it work with things like self-modded storage? Will it be an additional gizmo for shelves that add an extra priority level? Well, okay, first of all, excusez-moi, or Palador, it's not about storage priority in itself. So I was looking at hauling now because that's just a simple test scenario. But what it's actually doing is it's defining areas in which all work will have a higher priority. So you could think, for example, if you have several crafting areas or you have several kitchens or whatever, then you could say, okay, I want this kitchen is more important. I want all work in that kitchen to be done first. Probably with fields, it's even more important. Like you have a high... so work that uses area definition. Yeah, kind of. So you can set one field to be high priority. That's where your cash crops are. And then maybe you're growing just some plain wheat or grass or whatever on some other fields. And those can be done whenever there's a little bit of time left. So those are lower priority. And Erdelf, I've tried to store like long list of integers in the past with work tab. And that ended up like being hundreds of lines of just tiny list items and one number in it. So I really don't want to go there. Yeah, I am optimizing more than necessary, maybe, but I mean, this is going to be a tiny little thing, so it's not like it's going out of my way very much. Transatlantic. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I am most definitely not a professional. If you want to see a professional at work, you'll have to wait for Erdelf to start streaming or something. I enjoy it though. I'm getting better at it. I am exposed to a lot of coding at work and stuff as well, but I've never had a proper education in it. So I'm finding out as we go along. I just have a head start. But I actually learned coding, modding, or I learned C#. I knew a little bit of coding, but I learned C# modding for RimWorld. So, I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. If we're in, oh gosh, like my keyboard is just in a slightly different position than normal, and that's completely screwing me up. I cannot type anymore. Okay, if we're saving, then we need to create this priority grid scribe helper thingy. So what we're going to do is basically just do a quick cast to it. We're taking our priorities. What did I call it? I know there's a priority thing itself somewhere. Or is it just called grid? It's just called grid. Sure, fair enough. And we need to just cast this. Is that a thing? That is a thing. Amazing. I think we can do this. Yeah, no, we need to make it a list again, or an array, or whatever. I'm not 100% sure about what. As far as I'm aware, a byte is just a very small integer type. I think. And we can cast enums to integers. I'm not sure, honestly, but I'm pretty. Well, let's see where this is actually used. Yeah, it's being used by the history recorder and everything. Apparently there's also a byte grid. What is that used for? So there is a vanilla type for a byte grid, and I'm curious where they're using that. For infestations, apparently. So that was probably and the void grid, right? Okay, interesting. So yeah, those are mostly for AI things. So not necessarily what I'm looking for, but that doesn't matter. We can piggyback on it. I have two options now. I can either use that internally instead of the enum grid that I'm currently using or making myself use, but then I need to handle casting to and from bytes and enums whenever I'm getting or setting data from it, or I can handle the conversion when I'm storing, when I'm scribing. I think I'd prefer doing it when I'm scribing because that keeps it in one spot. And it only happens like on autosaves or whenever you're saving manually. So that's not that this is a very expensive operation, but it just seems cleaner. I'm not happy about this this message though. I mean, if I just take one of the priorities, so I p as byte, is that possible? I can't do as because it's not nullable and it's not allowed to fail, so I can't use a what's it called? The save cast. So I would have to hard cast it basically. Oh gosh, this is too much JavaScript. TypeScript, to be fair. That's not throwing a warning, at least. Yeah, it's not particularly interesting. Well, that cast actually works properly. All right. I mean, I've used I mean, these are the cards in what's it called, in Link, right? I've used them before without much issue, but let's do it this way. Seems safer. Anyway, now we've got something to reference, so we can just reference that priority grid scribe helper, and we need to give it a name, and we can just call it priority grid. Okay, then after we've loaded it, we need to go the other way. So this is during post-load init, let's say. So that's the final phase of loading a save game. And now we need to say that the grid is priority scribe helper select priority p, and this we're going to cast it back to whatever it was. Not that one. That one? That doesn't seem right. Grid, where are you? Spatial priority is the actual class that we want to use, or enum type. I'm using the angled brackets again because I've been doing too much TypeScript. That's it. And to array. Right. Lila Hamstern, welcome to the stream. I'm modding a spatial priorities mod. So you can assign priorities by area. You can look at my last stream. I've got a couple of examples there. And somebody said something to me somewhere. What's the mod about? Well, you'll just have to watch the stream. Let's get rid of that because it's not really necessary. We'll keep calling base expose data even though there's nothing in there. Actually, this might be necessary because we need to do the rest of our initialization here. So basically we need to say, we need to call set dirty. Yeah, just to make sure that all of the layers will get recalculated. I'm also in the living room now, so if you there's the dog is lying around there somewhere and choking on a bone at the moment, I think, more or less. He's fine. He's making noises. Kittens might run around at some point, just so you're aware. Okay, I think that works. I think that should work. The constructor will still get called. That will set everything up, create the layers, create our grid, then we override the grid again. We call set dirty, which overrides the layers again. It's a little bit of extra work, but I mean, it will work. It doesn't actually matter that we're doing this twice. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's give it a quick test, because you should never assume stuff works. I've assumed stuff works way too many times. And I was like, I'll just make a small tweak, then I'll release it and put it on Steam, and then I can go to bed, and then I'll wake up the next morning. I've got 20 messages on Steam. You broke my save game! Fix it! Fix it now! Oh, oops. I have to revert the actual Steam release and go back to previous versions, and then yeah, that's terrible. It happened way too many times. Hey Orbit, welcome to the stream. Nice to see you here. Hi. So let's make some small areas here as well to just show again what's actually happening. So we've got two areas now. We've got critical and high priority, and then over here we'll make a low priority area. Now if I mark all of this steel for hauling, set up a stockpile zone, they should haul from the high priority first, or the extreme priority, then high, then everything else, and then finally the low priority. Yep, there we go, that was it. That's the idea. Obviously, much more you can do with it. The mod manager tool is my work in progress out of game mod manager. So it's basically, it's supposed to have all of the functionality of my in-game mod manager, but this is a standalone implementation. It's on GitHub. You can get it now, it works. For what it's worth, it doesn't have all the functionality that I want yet, but you can download it on GitHub and it will auto update and everything, and should be fine. Let me know if you use it, if it works for you, and if you have any problems, etc., etc. Right. So we set up the grids. Let's just see if they actually get persisted when we store. Test. There we go. Let's set it up so that we load in there, because I always get annoyed if it doesn't. I want to have a quick look at what the save file actually looks like now. Oh, so we created the priority grid that should be here. So yeah, this is ours. This is all we're saving in it. That looks alright. No idea how much bigger that can get, but I mean, at least it's not a giant array of numbers in it. Now we just need to see if it will revert. Or, I mean, if you can actually load it again. So, let's give that a try. No errors at least. That's always a good start. Yay, they're still there. The real test if it's still there after you've actually restarted the game, because sometimes you get these data leaks and stuff, or I get these data leaks. Stuff hangs around. Again, no errors. It's creating the layers, and you can see that it's creating the layers twice, so I have a suspicion that it's actually worked. And there we go, they're still there. Alright, so that's step one. This is actually usable now. Still don't like this. So what I want to do is I want to break in here, add some icons there with just a 1 through 5 on it, so that we can yeah, you can just click those quickly and like set up the priority. So we need to figure out where these things are called. I have no idea. What I do know is that these are alerts. So I'm assuming this is all called in one UI element. So let's go to the alerts first and then backtrack our way from there. Right, so this is the alert readout. That on GUI for that one is called from somewhere, and whatever that is will also call the on GUI that I want to look at. I'm pretty sure. Is it really just the root UI? Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, eventually, Orbit. It's not actually hooked up to manifest yet, that kind of jazz. So currently, no, not really. What you can do is change your mod list and like load mod list from save games, stuff like that. So you don't have to start the game twice to do that kind of stuff. And like I use it to quickly switch between mod lists and then start the game with that. The idea is definitely like on the to-do list. Was dealing with the manifest, so then I want to look at some load order stuff and see if we can automate that a little bit or give the warnings. Just do the basic stuff that we also do in the in-game thing, so give warnings for incompatible load orders, that kind of stuff, and also version checking. Need to make sure that it works on non-Windows stuff. I want to do some Steam integration, etc., etc., etc. Lots of extra stuff, and then finally, there's some stuff that I would like to do. Maybe it's like if there's ever an external Rimworld mod website, we could try to subscribe to a protocol so that you can really automate like downloading, installing, stuff like that. Also automatic mod updates and stuff. I mean, you could predefine some sources. If somebody uses GitHub, that's fairly straightforward to download stuff automatically from and stuff. It would be nice, but yeah. A crowdsourced tag system so people can tag mods as UI or whatever you want, and then have some kind of curation system in there so that we don't get people calling stuff inappropriate names. There's a lot of things there that, yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Probably never gonna happen. But this is stuff that I will still want to implement. But yeah, not there yet. Just what is there now. And I can't get that one to work. But maybe at some point. Anyway, back to what I was doing. So we've got a bunch of... This is the entire UI. I didn't expect to go that far down, basically. But this is the function that calls all of the other UI elements. And I honestly don't know what half of these are. Map interface on GUI before main tabs. What the hell is a map interface? Yeah, so this is for the window stack. So the window stack is all of the other windows that you may have open. Actually don't know how to open a window now. Well, this is a window. Most of these tabs, this is a window. This is on the window stack. This is a window. Everything is a window. Well, not everything. Lots of stuff. Widgets on GUI? That sounds like it might be it. No, I don't think so. Map close, debug tools is not it. Low priority, main menu shortcut. No, none of that is it. Maybe it's in the map interface? What was I just looking at? The alerts readout on GUI. That is called from here somewhere. Why don't I see it anymore? Oh, there it is. Is it this one then? Main buttons? No, main buttons, I know what the main buttons are. I don't need to, the main buttons are the things at the bottom. These are all main buttons. So that's definitely not it either. I'm getting annoyed with this now. Is it in the alerts readout maybe? Alright, thanks for hanging out, Transatlantic. See ya. Thanks. I'm sure I'll eventually get one. Alerts readout. Let's just quickly look at what is actually in here. All of it. So these are actually alert stuff. Prior than draw order. Yeah, it's still about alerts. Yeah, no, this is actually about alerts. Nothing else. Alright, this is getting somewhere. This is environment stats drawer. It's not the debug drawer though, is it? Nah, it's debug cells and all that stuff. No. Before main tabs. Okay, this is looking. Okay. Okay. Global controls might be it. But yeah, all of these things are with various like interaction things. So thing overlays are like the names on things, the labels on things, I think. Not entirely sure about that. Map components can define on GUI functions, which is handled here apparently. The beauty drawer, so the little numbers on the floor you can get. All that kind of stuff. The drag box, when you're dragging designations out, designation managers, the little icons for designations, I guess. The targeters, when you give targets for attacking things. All of that is handled in here apparently. And I think this might be it. Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. Draw text winter shadow. Oh. Background dark alpha for text. Okay. So this is actually looking if it's a. Oh wow! So if it's a wintry map, if it's all white, then you wouldn't be able to read white text. So then it draws a shadow underneath it. Cool, interesting. Didn't realize that was a thing. Not entirely useful here though. So this is the weather GUI, time speed controls. The play settings are are these things. So I need to go. I would say above the time controls. All right. I'm looking at how I can deal with this, but the time speed control, it takes what is num? Right, that's our X position because it's set here. It's the screen width minus 200, so it's 200 pixels from the right of the screen, the available area. This is the actual width of the available area, again the 200. This is probably not actually like typed in as a number in the source code. It's probably a constant somewhere, but that gets replaced with the actual value. and it returns the Y position. And it does that in a ref, which makes it fairly easy to postfix this, which is nice. So we don't have to transpile it to break in at this point in the function and mess about. We can just postfix this, do our stuff, and then return the Y position offset for whatever we're drawing on the UI. So that's nice. It's very nice. Very nice indeed. All right, let's do it. Create a new class for this. And this is going to be, we call this priority quick menu. It's a terrible name. It'll have to do. Why am I doing this? This is going to be a simple or fairly simple patch. I'm just going to call it what it is, how I always call patches. So this is going to be called patch, and this is a patch on global controls on GUI. Right. No, that one. We're going to make this a harmony patch. Come on. Yes. Harmony patch, and it's going to be on global controls. Yeah. Name of global controls on GUI. All right, this is going to be a public static void, because we don't return anything from a postfix, and we want to get basically all of the arguments that the original method was getting. So, oh no, I'm an idiot. We're not postfixing this one. We're postfixing the time speed controls. So this is in global speed utility, do time speed controls. Almost the same. Time speed controls. Global controls utility. Do time speed controls without a capital there. I mean, this really doesn't matter what I call this, but I just like having it the same so that, I don't know. The arguments that this gets is, yeah, the left X, so basically our top left position, a width, and we change our Y position. So after we're done drawing, we return the new Y position. So it knows how far to like offset the other elements that are being drawn. It's kind of, yeah, how UIs are usually drawn in RimWorld. We give the arguments the same name, then Harmony knows what we want to do with them. Yeah, is that true? I forget. Do I need to add the 2 underscores in front of it? Let's quickly pull up the Harmony wiki. I should really know this by now. Why is there not a wiki button there? I'm sure the button was there somewhere, I just missed it, but whatever. Alright, patching, postfix, and then patches can use a parameter named instance to access the instance value if original method is not static. Yeah, we don't need to do that. Yeah, those are like the special things, but we don't actually need that. We can just like get the count and stuff normally. That's when you need to add the underscores. Yeah, all right. But this is not actually a method that returns anything. It manipulates its value with the ref for the y position float. Anyway, so we get the x position, we get our width, and we get our base y. That's basically all we need to do. So we can now create a new rect and draw anything in it. Yeah, sure. Just add our x position, our y position. I really don't like these names for it, but I guess I have to deal with that. And our width is just width, and our height, let's make this 30. And for now, let's just quickly draw a box. Just to make sure that it's working. Then we up curve base y with the height that we were using plus 4, because that's the offset that they seem to be using in the base game. Okay, we're using Harmony. We already used some other patches, which means that we already have somewhere, I have a manager class. Yeah. I must be calling Harmony somewhere. I'm apparently not. So wait, I'm not. These patches are not even being used. What were they supposed to be doing? Interesting. Okay, I was clearly thinking a lot about this because I made a very long note there. Not entirely helpful, but let's just turn it on, see what happens. Or moving file, yeah, that's fine, but it succeeded. I'm half expecting the game to crash now. didn't crash, so that's something. We got our box here. We didn't. Oh, I'm looking at it the wrong way. I'm used to going from the top down, but I need to go from bottom to up now. So that's why the box is drawn in the wrong position, and I'm also offsetting the rest of these elements here into the wrong position. So I'm putting them down instead of pushing them up. All right, well, that's good to know. But that's a simple tweak, so. I'm very curious what that thing was supposed to be doing now, though. I'm sure it was important. We'll have to figure that out in a bit. But first, dispatch. So the base y needs to be minus the height that we want to use. So let's set that as a separate variable so we can keep reusing it. This is a float height equals 30. Right. And now we can just use the height here. And we can use it here. And there. So that we know that we're always looking at the same thing. This shouldn't be adding, it should be subtracting. I think that should work. Yep, there you go. We got ourselves a nice little area to work with now. Right. Next. Problem. Is it a problem? Not really. We need to create some buttons for this, some icons. I'm thinking we could just use numbers. I'm not liking it terribly much, but it would work. Well, let's do that as a starting point, and then we can always work from there. What we need to do, or what we want to do, is create 5 little areas. I was thinking, do we want to evenly spread them throughout this thing? Probably not. Just, well, maybe. I mean, there seems to be row for 5 widgets here. So if we use 5 large font numbers there, that would probably fit just right. So let's start with just doing them equally spaced out. Right, so we need to know how wide they're going to be. We've got our overall width, but we need to get our icon width. And that's just going to be width divided by 5. It doesn't need to be a float value because width is already a float, so we don't need to worry about integer division. Let's call this icon size because I'd want them to be square, to be honest, probably. No, they're going to be too wide. No, let's keep it width. Then our button rect, icon rect, whatever, is going to be... we'll start from the left, that's fine. This is staying the same. And we're just going to change our width. All right, then Alright, I'm gonna use a quick trick to get the values from an enum. It's horrible, but it works. Spatial priority. I think this was it. And now we have yeah. 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 I'm always amazed that we need to cast it again, but I do believe that that was actually a thing that needed to happen there. So kind of annoying, but we'll have to live with it. What we're going to do is basically for each of these priorities, we're going to write it down as a number. We're going from very low to low, normal, important, critical. I'm going to give these explicit values just to and I should probably use the same kind of scheme that we use for work, so high numbers are low priority. And call me OCD, but this shit needs to be lined up. Why are you tabbing through it like that? Why won't you... Did I click something weird? Ah! We'll just use spaces. I mean, nobody ever fought over whether to use tabs or spaces, right? This is entirely likely to fuck up our current save game, by the way, because we've now changed the values that are there. And by default, I think it would use 0 indexing, so just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've told it to go the wrong way around and start at 1. So yeah, it's probably going to screw it up. We might get some errors from that. But I mean, nobody besides us is already using this, so don't care. Priority number is priority as int. Does that work? No, you just have to hard cast it. Not a huge deal. We can widgets draw label, just label, right? I think there's also a button. No, I haven't used this in a while. Button saddle might be it. Because the normal button text has the ugly brown 3D-ish effect thingy going on. I think button text saddle might just be just the text in a clickable way, which would be nice. Otherwise, we'll just have to draw the text ourselves and then work with an invisible button and things. It's not a huge deal, but this would be nice. We'll use the icon rect. The label is our priority number. Wait, there's a bar % thing. We won't use that. We don't need sound devs. Functional size offset. No idea. Seriously, we need to cast you to a string. Oh well. All right. We'll need to wrap this an if statement around this and call the right designators and stuff when this is being clicked actually. But for now, I just wanted to know if this is working at all. We need to offset the icon rects to the right now, so we can say x plus is icon icon width. Just quickly going to change how this works. So I'm just going to set up the list of priorities earlier so that I can use that to actually get my width. So if I ever change the available priorities, I don't need to change the code here anymore. Which is, I mean, overkill, but whatever. And that can even be a static. Then I do need to give it a type, so it's going to be an array of spatial priorities. Almost. Yeah, no, can't do that. Sure. We'll use the enumerable. Whatever. Okay. Let's see if that worked. So we should expect to see 1 through 5 in some sort of button class on the lower right here now. Didn't want to see that. Exception has been thrown. Index out of range. Yeah. Yeah, okay. This is exactly what I was talking about. This save file is now borked, so we'll just create a new save file. Oh. Hi, Wade Everly. I do not want to be famous. Go away. You've probably already left my chat again. If he comes back, I've blocked him now. If he comes back, then please let me know. I can ban him. Interesting. So this is in the priority grid constructor. I'm probably using like a 0 to 4 loop here or something for it, or something weird. No, I'm doing the same thing here. Why wouldn't that work? Array index is out of range. It's in the priority grid constructor. This is setting up of the map size and array. So this is for every single cell in the map, there's an element in this array. That's fine. This should be fine, because it's just populating everything in that grid with normal. This is fine. This is just a 3 now. Then we get the priorities. I don't understand why this is. Oh, the colors. In priorities now 1 through 5. And this colors thing is not, because it's just an array. Oh, geez. Should we just not? I mean, I like this, but if it's causing problems. We'll just manually label them. So we can't do this anymore because this would now give from 0 to 4, which is not entirely user-friendly. Where 0 is the lowest priority, so what we can do is just say 5 minus that. Yeah, that should work just fine. Oh, yeah, that's not exactly subtle, is it? I mean, yeah, they're buttons. But no, that's not gonna work. That's not even close to working. We'll have to set it up manually. Alright, fine. Okay, we need to set up our font and our alignment. So text font is game font, and we want to use medium because that is the big one. Text anchor is text anchor. No, not alignment. Anchor middle center, because we want this to be in the middle of the available rect that we have for it. Then we want to draw the label, which is as simple as rect, priority number. This is icon rect, not rect. That draws our label. We want to have a highlight when we're hovering over. So that's how draw highlights. Mouse over, rect, and finally we want to do some logic if this invisible button is clicked. So that's button invisible, icon rect, and I don't particularly need sound effects on that because we can add them to the designator if we want to. All right. Then we want to open the correct designator, or actually we want to yeah, select it and Okay, so this is right. So let's just quickly look at what it's actually doing here, because it's changing the priorities here for the process inputs. Apparently, is that all it's doing? No, it's also doing a base process input. So this is the normal designator that we use when we are in the the architect menu. That's normally where you would be using designators. I'm not even sure that we can use them outside of it, but there's only one way to find out. Now that I think about it, I think it's fairly possible that I can't even use it, which would suck. Then we have to manually make something or hijack something. So I think what this base thing is going to do is just select this designator, check and interact, designate, yeah, find designator manager, select this. Yeah, that's kind of just what we need to do. And this pop-up menu is basically just allowing us to change the priority that we're using, but we can manually set that as well. So what we need is a reference to this designator. I'm sure we can get that somewhere. Is there a designator? Oh, there's a designator manager. Amazing. Can I find stuff here? No, that's just selected things. I can select it if I already know the designator. I can deselect it. But I cannot get a designator from this. So, oh, I'm in find now. I didn't want to be in find. I just want to, yeah, okay. I want the designator manager clause. This one. Yeah, that doesn't have terribly interesting things. There has to be a list of designators somewhere. If I remember correctly, they're stored on the architect category, because I use this stuff in stuffed floors as well. So if it's in the architect category, that means I have to add it with a dev somewhere, I think. But I don't actually have any devs. So how am I adding this? Good question. Huh, interesting. Is it defined on the actual designator? You know, there's only ever one instance of it, I think. Designator. So this is setting the icon and priorities. Designation stuff. Nowhere in here does it say like where it belongs. So where do you get that from? Am I injecting it somewhere? Yeah, this is where it's happening. All right. All right, so when I'm initializing, I'm doing the harmony patches, and I'm also getting the designation category dev for zoning. Probably okay. There's an argument to be made to put it in orders, but whatever. And then we can add it to the special designator classes. Sure. And then we need to resolve this, which is basically it recreates an instance for this specific thing. This is a list of types. But this def is never changed, really. This remains the same, basically throughout the entire game. Not even like for different save games. Just when you start the game, this gets created, and it's never changed again. Yeah, I was looking for this. Base resolve restaurant. So this is where it actually gets created. So this is activator creates instance. So whenever it resolves designators, but there should only ever be one major one for this. I'm pretty sure. If there's only one, then we can create like a fake simpleton or singleton pattern, which is not great, but it will work. So what we can do is we can give this a set of static reference to itself. Then when we create it, we can say, we can set that. So even if it gets recreated, then this will get retargeted. Terrible way to call it, but well, it should work. And we can create a getter function for it so that we can't muck it up from outside. It's going to tell me never used. Yeah, can use auto property. Don't care. I want to do it this way. Then in the speed controls, we can use that reference. So we can get the class, designator, spatial priority, instance, and now we have whatever is our current instance. We can set the priority to the priority that the button that was clicked has, and then we can say find designation manager, select the same instance again. This might possibly maybe work. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced we can use designators when the architect window is not open, but we'll find out soon enough. All right, so those numbers are pretty ugly. We may want to play with that a little bit. Let's see if it works at all. Ooh, that does work. That is very cool. Reset it. Awesome. All right. I'm happy with that. All right. Oh, wrong button. Right. I don't like those numbers. I kind of feel like maybe they should have a different font even. But then again, maybe not. Maybe they should be smaller. But then they might be too small. Well, they definitely need to be the other way around. And well, they can be narrower. They can stay closer to the edge, basically. I could theoretically try to fake this blue with a gray outline effect for the numbers. I've done that before. You can basically fake an outline by drawing it 5 times. So you draw 4 times. You draw your text like with 1 pixel offsets to the sides, and then you draw like your main fill color on top of that. It's incredibly inefficient, but it works. I use that in the manager for the labels of the bar graphs, which is one of the reasons that particular tab is so slow, because it has a lot of labels. So it does that trick a lot of times. And then you get overdrawing, and that's just terrible. Anyway, that's not the point here. We need to go the other way. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's also the way that the speed goes. It goes from 0 to 3. So it makes sense if that is similar. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Probably. Which means that we are going to start at sorry, our kitten just pooped, so it smells terrible in here. And Our dog is actually trying to eat it straight from the kitten's ass. That's disgusting, Ollie. Utterly disgusting. Shame on you. Oh, and my fiance is cleaning it up. That's why I'm not doing anything. Hi. So we need to add our offset here, but that gives us our outermost edge, and then we need to take off the icon width again. So that's going to be our initial position. So that's the rightmost square. I want the icon width to be smaller. So let's say that this is no, the minimum. So we're going to use the minimum of either. If yeah, this is giant overkill because I'm never going to tweak too much with these priorities, but whatever. So if we end up using a lot more priorities, then we may have to tweak the size of this, or if somehow the width, some other mod changes the width of this like sidebar, the width also might get changed. So we want to make sure that everything fits within that area, but we also don't want to make it too large. So if there is more width available, we don't want to use everything. So we're going to use the minimum of like it's going to be either well, let's start with 30. Because we're currently using 200 divided by 5, so that would be 40. So this is going to be slightly narrower. Let's see how that looks before we get more extreme. And then this is also going to be basically a square button. So let's just make it the height. It's not nice, but whatever. And then instead of going plus here, we want to go minus, because we now want to go from the right to the left. All right, that should work. Fingers crossed. Yeah. All right, that's worked. I still don't like it, but it's worked. Like these are just 4 buttons, so the comparison is not entirely fair, but I just don't like how it looks in comparison to it. I'm really tempted to try the overdrawing trick to recreate this look. Let's just go for it. Let's just see what happens. So let's make a tiny little helper for that. Void label outline. It's gonna have a rect and a string text. That's all it needs. Actually, it needs a little bit more. It needs a color outline, color, and it needs a color main color. What we're going to do is take this rect, offset it 1 pixel to the top and right, 1 pixel down and right, 1 pixel down and left, 1 pixel top and left. So we're going to create offsets. I always forget that you can't use var in like the class context, which makes sense, total sense, but tend to forget. It's going to be a new array, and we're going to add some stuff to it immediately. I forget when down, up, and right are, but I think those are 0, 1, 0, -1, etc. So that's not what we want. I want the vector 2, 1, 1. 2, 1, -1. -1, 1. And finally, you can see this coming from miles away. -1, -1. And what are you bitching about? Sure. Okay. I want to rename this because this is clearly a multiple, and then this can be the actual offsets. Right. Label rect. Can I do plus an offset? I don't think I can. That's probably not defined. It's defined for vectors addition, but it's not. Yeah, it's not defined for rect plus that. So I should be able to do this. No, I'm not. Right. Rect center. Does that work? All right. And then I should be able to just use rect there. I'm sure there's a way to do this in one line, but this is not some kind of coding competition, so let's keep it readable and workable. So why we're creating a little copy here is because we don't want to have to deal with like undoing the offset. Although to be fair, that would be fairly straightforward. Yeah, let's do that. Be slightly more memory efficient. We do need to change the color as well. Because this is going to be the outline, so we need to set it to the outline color. And we need to save the original color. Right, then we set it here, we draw our label. We do that 4 times basically because we've got the 4 offsets. We need to redo the center. And then finally we draw in the main color. Main color, widgets, label. In the rect, the text. And then we reset the color. There we go. We can handle other things like the actual font that we're using or the anchor that we want to use outside of this function. We don't need to do that in here. So let's not. Then we want to change this one. And we want to say label outline, I called it. Yeah. That's going to be in icon rect. The text is going to be priority number to string. The outline color is some kind of grayish, I think. So let's just call it gray. I don't know what the inside color is, but let's pick a color now and we'll see how it looks. And then we'll try to get the actual color that they use. So one of the colors that I like is like this mouse over color. That's like the active blue, I like to call it. It's like the fake light bluish. You'll know it when you see it. Huh. Why are you not doing anything? It is possible that this trick is not actually working. So if I change the center, it should be working. Yeah. That should be doing something. It's still white. Why is it still white? Did I not actually rebuild it? I do that sometimes. So if outline color is gray, mouse over color is the main color. Yeah, that should be working. Let's build it again for good measure. Yeah, there we go. That is incredibly ugly. Right, so that's clearly not the right color. And I think my offsets are a little bit too small or something. Or that's just not. No, that's not nice. I think this should be white to begin with, and this should be a darker color. I think those are probably colored icons to begin with, but we can look quickly at the the time speed controls and the time controls GUI. See if they change the color for it. So it might be a grayscale icon, which is colored by setting the GUI color, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah, this is highlighting, and this is just setting the speed button textures. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Alright, then we'll need to get slightly tricky. I got a little app for this the other day. Color Cop, I'd never heard of it before, but if I remember correctly, this allows us to get the colors for things on the screen, which is great, but it only clicks and drags. So then I need to have this open, you on top of it, and then do it like this, and we can see what it is. All right, to start. Next problem, this is on a 256 scale, but we can work with that. So R is 73F. This is so terrible way to do it. Doesn't matter. 94F divided by 256, because this the Unity color struct that we're using here uses 0 to 1 scale. I think there's actually a separate one that does use 256 scale, but this will do. Alrighty then. This might. Is this going to give us an error? No, it isn't. when we store this as a separate like class variable or something, the game is going to bitch at us that we need to have a static constructor on startup, because we're technically creating a Unity resource, which needs to happen on the main thread, but I don't think it matters for colors. All right, well, this is better, but setting the outline to white was clearly not a brilliant idea, because that's just overdoing it slightly. I'm also wondering that maybe setting these offsets to like zeros to make them slightly that in effect makes them smaller. Does it? Or does it just make them... Yeah, it should make them smaller, because now you're offsetting just to the up, down, left, right, instead of top left, top right, and everything. Let's play with that a little bit. Let's set it back to gray as well, because this shows up much better against this darker background, so we don't need it to be so bright anymore. Alright. I need to clean up the cat toilet again. But let's quickly see if this is working. No, definitely need to go back to white. But the outline is much vaguer now, so maybe we can get away with the white outline again. Anyway, be right back, 30 seconds. This is the little stinky butt that just did the nasty. Ooh, she doesn't want to be on camera. Hey, get out. Look, there's a camera there. No? No camera? You just want to discover it on your own. That's alright. Alright. Yeah, let's go back to a white outline and see how that looks. I mean, if this keeps failing, then we need to just... I'm also going to reduce the size of the buttons a little bit more. And if this keeps failing, then we just need to find some like texture buttons and not muck around with trying to do it ourselves. But I like being lazy when this is easier. And I want to reduce the width of these a little bit more. So let's say that this is going to be 20. That's probably reducing it too much. Let's set 25. Does it matter? Do I need to set anything else up? No, that should do. Did I change it? Yeah, I changed it back to white, but this is still too much. Nah. Yeah, I guess it's just not gonna get much better than this. I can go half pixel offset, see how that looks, but I think we might end up with some gnarly anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing? I don't know. Wait, what? Oh, right. Then this needs to be... No, vector 2 is... Is that not float? Yeah. What are you complaining about? I need to add an F to it, because otherwise it thinks it's a double. So normally you want to try and avoid having sub-pixel positions for text, because that leads to kind of gnarly, which is actually a good point. I haven't done that here, but it can lead to kind of gnarly, yeah, anti-aliasing. I may have to look into that for the actual button as well, although to be fair, it tends not to make a huge difference for larger types, larger fonts. Okay, I don't know what happened here. It seems like some offsets are, it seems like it has a 3D effect now. Like I forgot the offset to the top or something? Did I? No, they're all there. So yeah, that's probably the anti-aliasing. Can do this again. 0.5f. This would be minus and minus, and then also 0.5f. Riveting this. No, this would be minus 0.5. That's got all possibilities, right? Yeah. So now we're doing a half pixel on all sides again. So maybe, hopefully, we get rid of the 3D effect and still get a nice thin line. But did I build this? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm not pleased. I'm gonna have to look for some actual textures and do this manually. Or just create some number textures in a Photoshop and give them a slight stroke around it, 1 pixel stroke, and then that should work a lot nicer and cleaner. Because this is just not. No, this is gnarly. I guess it'll do for now, though. All right. I think I'm gonna call it for tonight for that. I'm still a little bit tired. It's been a long weekend moving around. And yeah. So thank you guys for hanging out. I'll be again here Thursday night, so in 2 nights, and we'll finish this off. I'll put an updated release out on GitHub tonight, so you can play around with it. If you have any bugs or problems or improvements or whatever, then I'll be glad to hear about them. Thank you guys very much for hanging around, and see you later. See ya, Adolf.